Welcome to the Know. I'm Mica.
And I'm Chad.
You might want to start checking the sky for flying pigs because Madden and FIFA publisher EA is considering the unthinkable. Because one day in the future, those games might not come out every single year. Can you believe it? I think the world is definitely coming to an end.
It may be. And it looks like the two franchises might be the latest games to move to the infamous games as a service model, where games are looked at as a platform to feed players a steady diet of microtransactions.
Oh, yummy. I love loot boxes. Yum, yum, yum. And instead of releasing a brand new, kind of changed-ish game every year, it looks like EA wants to transition two of its biggest sports franchises to a subscription-based model.
EA CEO Andrew Wilson said this in an interview with Bloomberg when he was asked about changing the annualized model of FIFA and Madden. He responded, "The short answer is yes. There's a few things that have got to happen first. We do a lot in a FIFA game every year and a lot in a Madden game, and there's a lot of code that we make available as part of the new iterations."
Which, makes some sense when you consider how much work it must take to put out a new Madden and FIFA game every single year. Even some versions are a lot more iterative than others, and the fact is that game development has gotten a lot more time consuming over the years as games have gotten more and more graphically advanced, and you gotta shove more loot boxes into places.
And Wilson seemed to allude that worked when he told Bloomberg, "There's a world where it gets easier and easier to move that code around. Where we may not have to do an annual release, we can really think about those games as a 365-day live service."
Of course, there's a reason why the games as a service model is so popular. We've said this many a time, it's because they make a fuck ton of money.
A lot.
Just earlier this year, it was reported that EA's Ultimate Team Mode makes EA $800 million annually, which that's just insane. And that's just from one game. So it's clear that EA has already been treating its sports games as a service already, rather than just releasing them and going, "Here you go guys, here's all the features and outfits and abilities, have fun."
Because money's important.
Because money!
Yeah, games as a service has been the big buzzword among developers this year, with the idea that games aren't just one-off release anymore, but something that developers release and then make money off for as long as they possibly can.
Earlier this year, Square Enix said that it would be moving more to that model, saying, "We believe this is going to be the mainstream model for gaming in the future. In developing future titles, we will approach game design with a mind to generate recurring revenue streams," which is probably why you've seen its latest game, Final Fantasy 15, get all new kinds of DLC and new content since its release, and the remake of Final Fantasy 7 is supposed to be released in episodes, so...
And even further back, look at the success of games like Grand Theft Auto Online, which still has a massive following despite being years old. So it's not hard to see why EA would want to follow suit.
But it's not just Square Enix and EA that's going down this road. Ubisoft's boss Yves Guillemot said earlier this year that we are transforming our games from standalone offline products into service-based platforms where we can continually interact with and entertain our players. So yeah, everybody's doing it, guys.
And of course, EA famously canceled its visceral Star Wars game recently because it was too much of a linear single-player experience, which led a lot of gamers to conclude that it had no interest in those kinds of games anymore. Heck, one of its former developers at BioWare even said straight up that linear single-player games are dead at EA for the time being.
That's why I'm wearing black. Rest in peace, linear single-player games. You are too.
Good
See,
times.
we're dressing appropriately. Wilson himself said earlier this year, games as a service are reshaping our industry, and EA is positioned to lead. Our investment in an EA digital platform that connects players across games, franchise, and devices also provides more data from our games than ever before.
So this isn't a huge surprise that they'd be moving forward with this in FIFA and Madden. Hell, those games are basically games as a service already, they just happen to come out every year. But looks like EA has decided that it's more cost efficient to stick with a current game rather than go to the expense of developing new ones each year. DLC and microtransactions probably just make better financial sense.
In his interview with Bloomberg, Wilson mentioned the music streaming service Spotify and said that he's a huge fan, saying the greatest disruptor to the consumption of entertainment media in the last 5 years has been the combination of streaming plus subscription. It's changed the way we watch television, it's changed the way we listen to music, it's changed the way I read books.
Or listen to them now.
Yeah, you can also listen to books.
Yeah, so it's not hard to see the parallels that could be drawn with gaming. He also talked about how they already sort of make this work in China and Korea, saying about every 4 years we release a big new code drop and we offer incremental change over time.
So yeah, get ready for sports games to turn into WoW someday, but also could there possibly be some good things about this? After all, one of these things about sports games is that, whenever they're released, they're usually already obsolete.
Yeah, so at least you're buying one thing?
Right, and it updates itself, so you're not stuck with something that doesn't matter anymore.
That's true. Well, I guess update pumped with money. We saw this recently when NBA star Kyrie Irving appeared on the cover of NBA 2K18 in a Cleveland Cavaliers jersey. The only problem was that he'd been traded to the Boston Celtics shortly before the cover came out. Whoops, the developer quickly released updated cover art, but it was an illustration of how quickly sports games can get stale.
And if there's a bright side, if games are constantly updated, then companies like EA could just immediately send patches to update rosters, thus your game wouldn't go out of date as quickly, so maybe that will be worth your $5 a month.
That's up to you. Anyway, we'll see what happens, and if EA implements this sooner rather than later, one thing's for sure, games as a service, as a business model, is definitely here to stay.
What do you guys think of Madden and FIFA moving away from yearly versions? If you're a hardcore sports fan, what are your thoughts? Do you play the games? Do you know sports? Who kicks the ball where?
Usually goals, I hear.
Goal!
And for all your Madden and FIFA news, be sure to like this channel, and if you're new around here, then subscribe to the know, please.
Sports-based model.
EA CEO Andrew Wilson said this in an interview with Bloomberg. When he was asked about changing the annualized, all right, cool. EA CEO Andrew Wilson said this in an interview with Bloomberg. When he was asked about changing the annualization, damn it, annualized. That's a word that I don't use in my vocabulary very much. All right.